Do you know this feeling when you note that something is just there, but it doesn't make sense why it is there? Why is there a little pocket on my jeans? What does this traffic sign mean? Why are there so many keys on my keyboard that I never use?
Do you think that you know how to use your computer? Let me tell you, and let me be very, very clear. You don't know.
Think about saving 4 seconds out of 5 per task. If piled up, that's 12 minutes instead of an hour.
Less time you spend doing your job, the less strain on your eyes at the end of the day, and the smaller the CO2 footprint you leave behind.
So you are saying that finance frat boys have unique knowledge that can change your entire career?
Exactly that. And it was always on the surface.
As I navigate the labyrinth of financial data with the grace of a virtuoso, I can't help but feel a twinge of disdain as my peripheral vision catches sight of a fellow analyst clumsily fumbling with a mouse. The click-clack of their ineptitude echoes in the sterile confines of our pristine office space, a cacophony of inefficiency amidst the symphony of productivity. My fingers dance across the keyboard with the precision of a virtuoso, executing commands with the finesse of a seasoned maestro conducting a masterpiece. Each stroke is deliberate, each shortcut a testament to my mastery of this digital domain. But then, like a discordant note in an otherwise flawless composition, I witness the sorry spectacle of a mouse being wielded like some archaic relic of a bygone era. The audacity, sheer incompetence. It's as if they're mocking the very essence of our profession. Mingling with a tinge of annoyance at the sight of such mediocrity in our midst, a surge of superiority washes over me.
This might have sounded as a speech of a devoted follower of a highly destructive cult. Being brutally overloaded at work, investment bankers seek for every possibility to speed up their performance. It's clear that their perception of working differs vastly from yours. But before delving into this divergence, let me pose a question. Does the thought of a brand new laptop evoke discomfort or irritation for you? It certainly would have elicited such feelings in the past.
Computers are supposed to make life easier. About 1 in 3 American households has bought that theory and purchased a PC. But what they didn't tell you is that life does not get easier right away. For many newcomers, PC stands for pain and confusion.
In one survey, half of new users said they were ready to throw their computers out the window out of sheer frustration.
I have no idea what this disk drive is. No idea.
No wonder the book series Computers for Dummies has sold 18 million copies. At software giant Microsoft Corporation, users are tested like lab rats in a software maze as focus shifts from making computers more powerful to making them easier to use.
The biggest user problem we see right now is ease of use, particularly for the home or the beginning user.
Tell us about the mouse. What role does this play?
Of special keys on the keyboard and making the keyboard larger and larger and larger to put a special key for everything. By simply using the mouse, the user can move an arrow around on the screen and simply point to English words and point to pictures and move things around, select things, and exchange information between applications, all through this very simple device. And so what we've done is eliminated a vast body of knowledge that one has to know in order to use this computer.
In the early days of computing, graphical user interfaces were not as prevalent as they are today. Command line interfaces were more common, requiring users to type commands to execute tasks. Keyboard shortcuts were crucial for navigating and operating computers efficiently. The introduction of the mouse was hailed as a breakthrough, promising a more intuitive way to navigate complex systems. However, while the mouse made PCs accessible to a wider audience, it came at a cost: efficiency.
When something new emerges, conservative individuals often hesitate to embrace change. Within the corporate world, this reluctance to change is akin to the slow maneuvering of a massive ship encountering numerous obstacles along its course. However, sometimes there are instances when the inertia of the corporate machine safeguards overlooked aspects or even preserves a unique culture.
Industries like finance were early adopters of computer technology. Banks, known for their inherent risk aversion, especially in matters of technology, often maintain programs with interface designs that appear antiquated. Paradoxically, these systems are perceived as stable and reliable. Introducing entirely new systems could disrupt workflows and necessitate costly retraining, making such endeavors impractical for banks. Many longtime employees in the banking industry have grown accustomed to using legacy systems. Some of these systems have been in place for decades, and employees have honed their proficiency in navigating them solely through keyboard inputs. Keyboard shortcuts have not only persisted but have become indispensable for power users and professionals who prioritize efficiency over the convenience of a mouse. In the fast-paced world of finance, where speed and accuracy are paramount, mastering these shortcuts is standard practice among professionals. In some cases, firms may even advise newcomers to disable their mice as a means of enforcing shortcut proficiency. Sounds harsh? Or even extreme? Well, it appears to be the most effective method.
Having worked in the finance industry, I've observed firsthand the pervasive culture of keyboard usage. So by saying not using a mouse, it means not using it at all. This knowledge is so deeply ingrained within bulge bracket banks that it has become the subject of endless jokes on Instagram feed meme pages. Bill Keenan, in his book Discussion Materials, describes this corporate climate in detail, and in particular compares the keyboard-only approach to playing the piano. I embarked on my journey with Excel, marveling at the sheer beauty of this remarkable tool. The roots of financial spreadsheets trace back thousands of years to ancient Egypt. In our modern era, it's no exaggeration to say that the entire financial system relies heavily on Excel. Its depth of features is so vast that even Bill Gates has admitted to not knowing them all. Inspired by the finance culture after a private equity summer internship, I became determined to learn these techniques. During my studies, I had been self-teaching the method, and that expanded way beyond Excel. As I ventured into different companies, I encountered a frustrating reality. Many smart and talented individuals, experts in their respective fields, lacked even the most basic understanding of keyboard shortcuts. Allow me to illustrate. Analysts often find themselves juggling multiple applications, constantly switching back and forth between windows and displays, using a mouse to navigate to the taskbar and select the desired application can take up to 3 seconds each time. In contrast, Alt-Tab and arrows allows for instantaneous switching, taking less than half a second. Just using Alt-Tab can save up to 80% of man-hours per task. But let's examine a more extreme and disturbing example, selecting multiple rows in Excel. With a mouse, this process can be awkwardly slow and dull, requiring scrolling down to the last row, often overshooting and overselecting, then painstakingly scrolling back up. And for large data sets, this process can consume anywhere from like 30 seconds to minutes. If you recognize your colleagues, please send them this video. The Control plus Shift plus arrow down accomplishes the task within a second.
Keyboard shortcuts method is the fastest conversion of thoughts into actions. Highly likely, you might argue that this statement sounds like an exaggeration. You probably would start defending the position that the usage of the mouse is not that time and energy demanding. An application Iographica presents a great counter-argument. It allows you to visualize your mouse movements and even to convert it to contemporary art. To track the total distance of a mouse movement, you may use many various applications. In one experiment, it was stated that in one continuous hour of working, an analyst physically moved his mouse 124 meters. For an entire week, it approximates to 2.5 kilometers or 1.5 miles. And that's without a consideration of how many times his hand moved back and forth between a keyboard and a mouse. Consider also an extra effort searching for the cursor if you have multiple displays.
Despite the simplicity of the keyboard-only approach, there remains a shocking lack of comprehensive guides on transitioning away from the mouse. This documentary aims to address this gap by exploring the fundamental principles and some standard conventions that have emerged over time. When looking at the 1980s interface, we recognize the good old control ribbon. You can access it with the Alt key. Selection of the needed tab is with the arrows, but let's use our common sense. Seems like it would be annoying to click 6 times the arrow key to select the menu. What if you could just start typing the first letters of the tab names? Now you jump straight to the needed tab. Can you continue selections in the pop-up menu with typing? Yes! Would it sound logical for program developers to remove the command line feature that some users became accustomed to after the implementation of a mouse? Of course not! Even today, the vast majority of the programs work on the same principle. You can even find it in very unexpected cases. Check this out. When right mouse click in Word, by the way, on the keyboard, this is the key that does the job. Take a closer look at the words. Some of the letters are underlined, and you probably guessed it, hitting the underlined letters makes the selection.
In the 90s, the control ribbon started expanding, allowing more and more functionality. That's where user interface designers worked really hard to organize the tools. But how were typing order sequences resolved? If you've ever accidentally hit the Alt key in any Microsoft application, you've definitely been frustrated to see the letters appearing. Now, we are curious enough to keystroke the letter H. If we continue and keystroke, for instance, F and C, you will find yourself selecting the font color with arrows. Just hit Enter or Space to confirm the selection. If you want to go back one step, click Escape.
This is called Accelerator keys.
When you heard the term shortcut before, is this what came to mind? Probably not. Most users are familiar with just a handful of hotkeys. But imagine how your interaction with a computer could transform with the power of accelerator keys. And that's just one of many conventions we'll explore.
In the official Microsoft guide, we can discover even more. After hitting Alt, you can move between the areas with Tab or Shift Tab. Excel, being a spreadsheet program that has evolved over several decades, retains a legacy secret sequence. The user would not see hints on the screen but can find them in the ancient help documentation. This secret all-knowledge is a gold of investment bankers. It became the signature tool of the real Excel hardos, and it is very hard to overestimate its importance. Alt-E-S. Do you know that you can copy the cell and paste only its value, format, its column width, or many other? After copying, click Alt-E-S and V for value, T for formatting, and F for formulas. Haven't you forgotten the secret with the underlined letters, have you?
This information may be mind-blowing and might take a while to process, but it seems like we unintentionally touched a very hot discussion, a never-ending rivalry between Mac and Windows users. A fellow Mac user will note that none of the control keys force the letters to pop up. Are there keyboard shortcuts for Mac OS at all?
Let's summarize. In 2022, a company with a $1 trillion market cap addresses professional office users that its computers can run a software of their competitor that is available on the market for almost 40 years. The shocking emojis might be symbolizing a sensation. Well, Microsoft Excel was available for Mac the same year it launched for Windows in September 1985. Seems like office professionals for some reason have been totally ignoring Mac OS.
Newcomers and corporations are usually surprised to learn that most of the hardware is run on Windows. For corporate professionals reliant on Excel for their daily tasks, when switching to Mac, The software serves as a prism, magnifying the contrasting user interface design philosophies embraced by two industry giants. Ironically, it is even highlighted in the commercial, the reliance on the mouse. Apple's design philosophy emphasizes simplicity and intuitiveness, which prioritizes mouse-based interaction. Trackpads that took over have been non-stop growing. The latest MacBook's trackpad-to-body ratio is at all-time highs. This trend is certainly followed by its competitors. Nonetheless, on Windows, you're allowed to choose your work style. So why wouldn't Apple allow both user interference options?
The first assumption that comes into mind is that it could be a deliberate decision to limit Mac users and motivate them to use Windows instead. But such war move would be highly unlikely, as consumer discrimination would be a legal concern. Another assumption of absence of accelerator keys in Excel for Mac could lie in technical constraints. The macOS user interface framework and design guidelines may not easily support the implementation. Would such innovation require significant re-engineering? A third-party developer mimicked Windows-style shortcuts and now sells it to Mac users, proving that a single person could have done it. So why Apple has never challenged it? Well, there are still many mysteries.
The iPad still does not have a default weather and calculator app, and they want to know why.
So I use both systems, and I can tell you that after learning the typing sequences, it is so frustrating to be forced to use a mouse. You simply cannot unsee the underlying letters once you discover them. Fortunately, there is a paste special menu for Mac, and the convention is kept, but you cannot use the arrow keys or the tab key. This is often the case with Mac. Why can't we select using typing or the tab key or arrow keys like on Windows? It's a no-brainer solution if you misclick. Another great example is resizing. See how fast it is on Windows? Especially if you have multiple monitors. It really annoys me when I have no option but to aim for a small circle or to drag to resize on Mac. On Windows you switch between windows, whereas on a Mac you switch between apps. You select the app first and then you can select the window. Fortunately, Apple followed the convention for working with text. The command key is essentially the control key on Windows, so all these shortcuts are almost identical on a Mac. The trick is that these combinations may work in different applications in different ways. You'll see that all later, just keep watching. Now back to the thing. On Windows, you can conveniently copy many things one by one and then select what to paste. Why doesn't Mac have a clipboard? It doesn't make sense to me. I use this feature very often, especially with files. Both systems have great search algorithms. Working with browsers is probably the most important skill because we spend most of our time processing information. I really hope this isn't overwhelming, but it's not rocket science. It's all about repetition. For example, did you know that you can recover a closed page? That's right. Now, consider if you made a mistake like deleting something. These are the hotkeys to rectify this. Fun fact, it works in almost every program, just like Control-Tab or Control-Page Up, Page Down. Okay, what if we hold Shift? We can move the tab. Sometimes you don't need a combination. Just hit Page Down or Page Up. And to go down, Home to go all the way up. Use Alt and the arrow keys to go to the previously opened page. To find something on the page, use Control F. For downloads, it's Control J. For history, Control H. And never forget of the Alt ribbon approach. In summary, mastering keyboard skills is a highly accessible endeavor for those willing to challenge themselves. While listing mastered keyboard shortcuts on your CV might seem cheesy, the efficiency gained is invaluable. The cognitive strain of learning and relearning lies in building new neural pathways in your brain. It requires body energy, as it involves a chemical process. But the primary hurdle in acquiring this skill isn't just inherent resistance. Ignorance is the main issue. After all, why seek out something that you don't know even exists? This project aims to infect you with the idea of alternative working methods. The goal is for you to pause next time you instinctively reach out for the mouse and consider, perhaps, there's a keyboard shortcut. By exploring this alternative path, you achieve the ultimate objective. The following segment addresses common questions encountered by those venturing down this path, offering hopefully illuminating answers. Best of luck on your journey.